But the thing about self-voicing was that there's been some discussions just now on the blind programming list um, about how JAWS isn't reading mathematics properly, and the people involved have to seem to make a choice between NVDA and JAWS as their screen reader. And if you're on Linux, then you don't have that choice. So there's a whole bunch of things there, and it struck me that self-voicing is one solution to that problem. So that you put the smarts not into the screen reader, but into the web page. Is that about right, Brian?
Well, one of the things that I think is the challenge, a lot of non-visual screen reader users don't like self-voicing technology because it competes with what their screen reader is speaking. And so usually they can't turn off the speech that the screen reader is doing and then only hear the self-voicing, and it's cumbersome to go back and forth. For instance, to make JAWS not talk, you actually have to shut JAWS down, and then you no longer have a screen reader running. But one of the things about the self-voicing option was to support non-screen reader users. So say that you're someone with traumatic brain injury or dyslexia, and you're trying to go through math. Right now, there aren't very many assistive technologies that help someone with dyslexia perceive math. And so I was trying to get MathJax to just talk on its own so that you don't, and you have the option to enable that. So it's by default maybe disabled. So someone who's using their screen reader could get their screen reader audio, but someone who doesn't have the benefit of a talking tool then could turn on this item and then have it announced to them. Because at least at our university, we have 18 non-visual students. We have 350 students who are dependent on text to speech because they have print impairment like dyslexia, dyscalculia, traumatic brain injury, temporary concussion, light sensitivity, things like that. And so having that text to speech reinforcement for perceiving mathematical content is beneficial, not just for the non-visual user. And that's what I was trying to address, the self-voicing. But it would be nice if you had the ability to selectively say to JAWS, for example, surrender, and let's listen to this technology, read it. And that's, I think, one thing that's not going on right now. But it's more a bug in the somewhat abysmal way that JAWS reads math versus the need for self-voicing math, I think. But there are places where, if you code your web page correctly with the right ARIA live updates, then you can control the voicing of the screen reader. And you can, using ARIA, have the screen reader say what you want it to say, but that requires some sophistication that's typically not present in how web pages are coded.
So one of the things is that screen readers introduce technological dependencies. And that's one of the things that makes it all harder. What I've done is I've simply condensed what you've said. If I just said what I said, it would be an abstract statement without meaning. I, for a long time, this was in the 80s, used a MS-DOS enhancer called DeskView. And it's a bit like Ball and Sidekick, if you've heard of that. And it allowed multitasking to take place. But the thing was, it had a hotkey, which by default was you tap the Alt key and then the DeskView menu came up. and it would do things. And then you pressed escape and the desk view menu would go away. And that was the way in and that was the way out. And desk view didn't do anything, didn't interface with you unless you tapped the alt or unless you, and then you pressed escape to get out of it. And that, you can see why I was reminded of that when you talked about the problem of multiple voices. I think I should be quiet again and let somebody else talk.